The 10 toughest actors in Hollywood history weren't just tough in movies, they were tough in real life. While some actors have played hard men throughout their careers, these men lived it. Their toughness was based on real scars, real battles, and real danger. Long before fame found them, they had survived wars, prison sentences, street fights, near-fatal accidents, and brutal labor. So by the time they stood on a film set, absolutely nothing could intimidate them. These are the 10 actors who didn't need to pretend. Their toughness wasn't scripted, it was earned. Number 10. Robert Mitchum. As an adolescent, he was sentenced to a Georgia chain gang at age 16 and spent his youth hopping freight trains during the Great Depression. He boxed under fake names just to earn food money. Mitchum's heavy-lidded stare wasn't an act, it came from a life lived on the edge. His broken nose and scarred face were entirely real. Before Hollywood, he drifted across America taking the hardest jobs available, from coal mining to ditch digging. When he became famous, his past didn't disappear. After a marijuana arrest in 1948, he did 60 days in jail, shrugged it off, and returned to work more popular than before. On screen, he seemed like a man who didn't care, because off-screen he truly didn't. His acting philosophy was simple. He had 2 styles, with and without a horse. Directors said you didn't direct Mitchum, you just turned on the camera and hoped he didn't hit someone. His calm presence came from real fights, real danger, and real experience. Number 9. Charles Bronson. He was born into intense poverty as one of 15 children in a Pennsylvania mining family and was working in the coal mines at 10 years old. The brutal environment shaped him long before Hollywood ever tried. During World War II, he became a B-29 tail gunner, one of the deadliest positions in the Air Force. He flew bombing runs over Japan, was wounded in combat, and earned a Purple Heart. After the war, he took any job he could find: short order cook, onion picker, part-time boxer. When Hollywood discovered him, he wasn't interested in glamour. He wanted a paycheck. His movements were efficient because he knew how real fights worked. Co-stars were shocked by his physical strength. When the Mafia reportedly sent threats after Death Wish, the studio offered bodyguards. Bronson laughed and said he'd lived too long and seen too much to fear them. He showed up, did the job, and went home. There was no pretension, only presence. Number 8. John Wayne. He wasn't just playing rugged heroes. He worked through real injuries and real illness. Before fame, he grew up in rural hardship and worked heavy labor jobs while attending USC on a football scholarship he earned through grit. Early in Hollywood, he moved props and built sets long before he became a star. On the set of The Alamo, he cracked several ribs during a stunt but refused to stop filming. Instead, he wrapped his torso tightly and continued working without complaint. In 1964, he underwent major surgery that removed a lung and 4 ribs due to cancer. Within months, he was back performing stunts in The Sons of Katie Elder. The darkest chapter came from The Conqueror, filmed near a nuclear test site where the cast and crew were exposed to dangerous radiation. Nearly half later developed cancer, including Wayne, who later died from it. Yet he never slowed down or backed away from physical demands. When offered a stunt double after surgery, he refused and said they could hire someone else if they wouldn't let him do it himself. Even actors who clashed with him politically admitted that his physical courage was unmatched. He endured more pain than most men could tolerate, and he kept going. Number 7. James Cagney. He grew up fighting on the streets of Manhattan's Lower East Side A place, where survival depended on quick reflexes and sharper instincts. Standing at just 5 feet 5 inches, he learned early on that size didn't matter if you knew how to move fast. Cagney boxed, not for sport, but because it was the only way to defend himself from bigger kids. Those daily battles hardened him in ways no acting class ever could. His screen fights looked real because they were grounded in muscle memory from real experience. Directors often commented that his punches landed with alarming precision. Raoul Walsh once said that Cagney threw a punch better than any actor he'd ever worked with because he'd thrown plenty of genuine ones before Hollywood came calling. What made Cagney even more formidable was the unlikely advantage of professional dance training. That mix of fighter's aggression and dancer's timing made his movements explosive, controlled, and dangerously accurate. Off-screen, his reputation was solid. He wasn't a bully, but he was someone you never wanted to push too far. Bob Hope joked that Cagney was the kind of man who might knock you down, then help you up and buy you a drink. His toughness didn't fade as he aged. It simply refined into quiet confidence. Cagney proved that the real toughness isn't measured in inches or volume. What matters is the certainty behind every movement. Number 6. Anthony Quinn. Born during the chaos of the Mexican Revolution, he was raised amid real danger long before Hollywood fame. His family fled violence and eventually set up in the slums of East Los Angeles, where the only way to get by was to face life head-on. By the age of 9, Quinn was working long hours as a laborer to bring home an income. When the money dried up, he turned to professional boxing, stepping into real rings for real pay, earning his battered nose and rugged features the hard way. His physical strength became legendary on film sets. During the filming of Zorba the Greek, he was able to carry enormous logs that normally required 2 men, simply because the job had to be done. In The Guns of Navarone, he insisted on performing his own dangerous climbing stunts at 46, ignoring concerns for his safety. What made Quinn different from other tough guys was a healthy balance of the powerful with emotional depth. He could express tenderness or vulnerability without losing his aura of strength. The toughness was real, built from a lifetime of hardship and survival, and audiences could feel it in every role. Number 5. Kirk Douglas. Nothing in his life came easy. Born into a poor immigrant family, he grew up doing odd jobs just to help keep the household afloat. His natural drive pushed him into competitive wrestling, where he earned a scholarship that became his ticket out of poverty. When World War II began, Douglas enlisted in the Navy and served aboard submarine chasers, small ships constantly under threat from enemy attack. Injured during service and medically discharged, he never leaned on that injury as an excuse. In Hollywood, Douglas attacked his roles with the same intensity he applied to life. For Spartacus, he trained with real fighters, took real hits, and refused stunt doubles. Even after serious injuries on set, he returned to filming almost immediately. His toughness didn't diminish as he aged. At 72, he survived a helicopter crash that killed 2 people, then forced his way through rehabilitation until he could walk again. After suffering a major stroke that devastated his speech, he battled through years of therapy, regained his voice, and even wrote a book about the experience. Stanley Kubrick summed him up simply: when Kirk decided something would happen, it happened. His willpower was as legendary as his screen presence. Number 4. Lee Marvin. Before Hollywood, he had lived through the brutality of real war. As a Marine in the Pacific during World War II, he fought his way through some of the deadliest island battles. At Saipan, he was struck by machine gun fire that tore through his back and permanently damaged his sciatic nerve, leaving him with a limp he hid for years on screen. Marvin didn't have to imagine violence. He had seen it, survived it, and carried it with him. That showed in everything he did. His movements always precise and efficient, the way someone trained by actual combat behaves. And when he played soldiers, hitmen, or criminals, there was a quiet menace in his eyes that didn't come from acting. It came from memory. Off-set, the stories about him were legendary. On one shoot in Oregon, he got into a bar fight with several lumberjacks and stood his ground, showing up the next morning bruised but ready to work. Co-stars often admitted he made them uneasy not because he was loud or intimidating, but because he didn't need to be. His power came from stillness, from the certainty of someone who had survived things far worse than any scene could demand. Lee Marvin didn't portray danger. He embodied it, carrying real battlefield scars beneath his wardrobe, bringing unfiltered authenticity to every role he touched. Number 3. Steve McQueen. He wasn't just Hollywood's king of cool. He was genuinely fearless in ways that unnerved studios and terrified insurance departments. Abandoned by both parents, raised in reform schools, McQueen learned early how to survive on his own. He ran away at 14, drifted into trouble, and eventually joined the Marines, where his rebellious nature continued. He was demoted repeatedly and spent 41 days in the brig, not because he was weak, but because he refused to submit to authority. Yet when it mattered most, his character proved unshakable. During Arctic training, he rescued 5 Marines from a sinking tank, risking his own life without hesitation. That mix of unpredictability and absolute reliability under pressure defined him for the rest of his life. But in Hollywood, McQueen never walked away from danger, he chased it. He insisted on doing almost all of his own stunts, despite the constant objections. On The Great Escape alone, he did everything but the final fence jump, and only didn't because producers physically stopped him. On The Sand Pebbles, he almost drowned doing river scenes. In The Towering Inferno, he insisted on doing fire stunts that even the professionals hesitated to attempt. His off-screen passions were just as intense. McQueen professionally raced motorcycles and cars, often under fake names so studios couldn't block him. At the grueling 1970 Sebring race, he placed second overall with a cast on his foot. When he learned his name appeared on Charles Manson's kill list, he didn't hire security, he simply started carrying a loaded Magnum everywhere. His longtime stunt double summed it up best. Steve didn't act like a racer or fighter. He was better than most pros. McQueen didn't act fearless. He lived it every single day. Number 2. Charlton Heston. A World War II vet, he brought authentic physical stamina to roles requiring massive exertions. Before facing the cameras as the towering figures of Moses or Ben-Hur, Heston served as a radio operator and aerial gunner in the Army Air Forces. Though he never saw direct frontline combat, the discipline and toughness he learned during the war molded his approach to the whole business of acting. What distinguished Heston wasn't merely his bulk, it was his disdain for special treatment. For the 10 Commandments, he hoisted heavy stone tablets repeatedly for take after take, never asking for lighter props. During The Greatest Story Ever Told, he tore shoulder ligaments during a stunt, had the injury wrapped during lunch, and returned to filming that afternoon. The greatest test Heston faced was in the years following work on The Conqueror, which filmed downwind from a nuclear testing site. Nearly half the cast and crew would eventually develop cancer, including Heston. Even after surgery and the removal of a lung, he continued to take physically demanding acting parts that would exhaust younger, healthier men. He didn't do it for ego. He did it out of duty to the production and to audiences. Whenever he appeared on screen, he carried with him an unmistakable aura of strength built from military service, pure discipline, and a willingness to endure real suffering for his craft. He didn't just portray heroic endurance. He lived it. Number 1. Audie Murphy. The most decorated American soldier in U.S. history, he was boyish, quiet, and lethal beyond compare. Before Hollywood ever saw him, Murphy had already survived battles that would have broken most men. At 19, he single-handedly held off an entire German company for over an hour, firing from the burning hull of a tank destroyer. Wounded and almost out of ammunition, he then led a counterattack that drove the enemy back. That single act earned him the Medal of Honor, but it wasn't the only time he showed superhuman bravery. By age 21, he had been awarded every American combat medal for valor and was awarded 28 decorations in all. Historians estimate he personally killed more than 240 enemy soldiers, a number greater than some entire units. But the strangest part of Murphy's toughness was his appearance. At enlistment, he weighed just 112 pounds and looked more like a schoolboy than a warrior. When he arrived in Hollywood, security guards didn't believe the polite young man could possibly be the legendary soldier everyone recognized from magazine covers. His gentle face made his achievements even more shocking, and when he starred into Hell and Back, producers toned down his real actions because audiences simply wouldn't believe them. Behind his calm exterior, Murphy lived with severe PTSD. He slept with a loaded pistol under his pillow and suffered violent flashbacks. His wife once said that during those episodes, it wasn't Audie anymore, it was someone she didn't recognize. On rare occasions, when provoked, that other side appeared. A businessman once became aggressive with him and backed down instantly when he saw Murphy's expression change. He later admitted he realized in that moment that Audie could have killed him without hesitation. Murphy didn't want to play war heroes. He preferred light roles. Yet every time he appeared on screen, there was a quiet intensity that told the truth. This was a man who had seen horrors and survived them. He wasn't acting. He was the real thing. Honorable mention goes to Danny Trejo. Though not a Golden Age actor, he is one of the few modern performers whose real-life toughness rivals the legends of old. Before becoming recognizable in films like Machete or Heat, Trejo spent more than a decade cycling through California's toughest prisons for armed robbery and drug offenses. At San Quentin, he became the lightweight and welterweight boxing champion, earning respect from some of the most dangerous inmates in the country. The scars on his face aren't makeup. They're reminders of knife fights and prison battles that nearly killed him. What makes Trejo remarkable is not just survival but transformation. After getting sober behind bars, he maintained sobriety for more than 50 years and dedicated himself to helping others as a drug counselor. When Hollywood found him, he wasn't chasing fame. He was simply doing his job helping another recovering addict. Trejo never pretends to be tough. In the places where fake toughness gets you killed, Trejo commands respect instantly. As one former inmate said, "Danny's the real deal. Everyone knows it." So ends the list of the 10 toughest actors in Hollywood history. Those men that didn't just play strong characters, but lived through real hardship, real war, real danger, and real pain. Their toughness wasn't a performance, it was earned, and earned the hard way.